The legacy of HBO's hit series Girls continues to spark conversation years after its finale, but this time, the spotlight isn't just on its cultural impact, it's on what may have been happening behind the scenes. In a candid and introspective reflection, Lena Dunham has opened up about her past perceptions of alleged intense, and at times, unsettling, behavior from co-star Adam Driver, admitting that she once rationalized it as part of the mythos surrounding great male geniuses. Her comments have reignited discussions about power dynamics, artistic temperament, and the ways in which Hollywood has historically excused problematic behavior in the name of brilliance. A complicated reflection on the past. Dunham, who created, wrote, directed, and starred in Girls, has never shied away from self-examination. Over the years, she's revisited many aspects of her work, what it got right, what it got wrong, and how her own perspective has evolved. In her latest reflection, she addressed rumors and recollections surrounding Driver's on-set demeanor. While she stopped short of outright condemnation, she acknowledged that some of his behavior, often described as intense, method-driven, and occasionally volatile, was something she once viewed through a lens of admiration rather than concern. "I thought that's what great male geniuses do," Dunham admitted, encapsulating a belief that has long permeated creative industries. That statement alone speaks volumes, not just about Driver or Girls, but about a broader cultural narrative that has historically excused or even celebrated difficult behavior in male artists. The myth of the difficult genius. For decades, Hollywood, and the arts more broadly, has upheld the trope of the tortured genius. From directors to actors, men who push boundaries, challenge authority, or behave erratically have often been framed as passionate, committed, or simply too brilliant to be constrained by conventional norms. Dunham's reflection suggests that she, too, once bought into this narrative. At the time Girls was in production 2012-2017, Driver was a relatively unknown actor. His portrayal of Adam Sackler, a complex, unpredictable, and often emotionally raw character, quickly became one of the show's most compelling elements. His performances were intense, sometimes uncomfortable, and undeniably magnetic. Behind the scenes, however, that intensity may not always have been confined to the camera. Dunham now questions whether her past admiration for that intensity blinded her to behavior that might have been inappropriate or troubling. Adam Driver's acting style. To understand the context, it's important to consider Driver's approach to acting. A former Marine-turned-performer, he trained at Juilliard and has often been described as deeply committed to his craft. Driver has spoken in the past about immersing himself fully in his roles, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. That level of commitment can sometimes blur the lines between performance and reality, especially in emotionally charged scenes. On Girls, his character's volatile relationship with Dunham's Hannah Horvath required frequent displays of raw emotion, anger, vulnerability, intimacy, and unpredictability. For some, that kind of acting is a sign of dedication. For others, it can create an uncomfortable or even unsafe environment if not carefully managed. Dunham's recent comments suggest that, at the time, she may have interpreted Driver's intensity as a mark of artistic seriousness rather than something to question. Reframing the narrative. What makes Dunham's reflection particularly striking is not just what she said, but how she said it. There's a clear sense of hindsight, a recognition that her past thinking may have been shaped by cultural conditioning. "I thought that's what great male geniuses do," is less a defense of Driver and more an indictment of the system that taught her to think that way. It raises important questions. Why are men's difficult behaviors so often reframed as genius? How does that perception affect those working around them? And what does it say about the standards applied to women in the same industry? Dunham herself has faced intense scrutiny throughout her career, often for things far less severe than what male counterparts have been excused for. The culture of excusing behavior. Dunham's comments come in the wake of a broader cultural shift. Over the past decade, the entertainment industry has undergone a reckoning, with increasing attention paid to workplace behavior, power imbalances, and accountability. The #MeToo movement, in particular, has challenged long-standing norms and forced a re-evaluation of what is considered acceptable. In that context, Dunham's reflection feels especially relevant. It highlights how even well-intentioned individuals can internalize harmful narratives, and how those narratives can perpetuate problematic environments. By admitting that she once rationalized certain behavior, Dunham is contributing to a larger conversation about unlearning those assumptions. The impact on set dynamics. Film and television sets are collaborative spaces, and the behavior of one individual can significantly affect the entire team. If an actor's intensity crosses into unpredictability or aggression, it can create tension, not just for scene partners, but for directors, crew members, and others involved in the production. Dunham has not detailed specific incidents in her recent reflection, but her comments suggest that there were moments that, in retrospect, may have warranted more scrutiny. At the time, however, she may have felt pressure, internal or external, to accept those moments as part of the creative process. That pressure is not uncommon, especially for women in leadership roles who are navigating male-dominated environments. Adam Driver's rise to stardom. Since Girls, Adam Driver's career has skyrocketed. He has become one of Hollywood's most respected actors, earning critical acclaim for roles in films like Marriage Story, BlacKkKlansman, and the Star Wars sequel trilogy. His performances are frequently praised for their depth and intensity, qualities that were already evident during his time on Girls. Driver himself has largely stayed out of controversy, maintaining a relatively private personal life and a reputation as a serious, dedicated actor. Dunham's comments do not appear to be an attempt to undermine his career, but rather to reflect on her own past perceptions and the cultural context in which they existed. A personal reckoning. One of the most compelling aspects of Dunham's reflection is its introspective nature. Rather than placing blame, she turns the lens inward, examining how her own beliefs may have contributed to the normalization of certain behaviors. This kind of self-awareness is not easy, especially in an industry where public image is so closely managed. By acknowledging that she once viewed problematic behavior as a sign of genius, Dunham is inviting others to consider their own assumptions. It's a reminder that cultural change often begins with individual reflection. Gender and double standards. Dunham's statement also underscores the gendered nature of how behavior is perceived in Hollywood. Men who are demanding, temperamental, or difficult are often labeled as passionate or brilliant. Women exhibiting the same traits, however, are more likely to be called difficult, emotional, or unprofessional. This double standard has long been a point of contention in the industry. Dunham herself has faced criticism for her outspokenness and creative choices, criticism that many argue would be less severe if she were male. Her reflection on Driver's behavior highlights how these double standards can shape not only how individuals are perceived, but how they perceive others. The evolution of industry norms. The entertainment industry is not the same as it was when Girls first premiered in 2012. There is now greater awareness of issues related to workplace conduct, mental health, and professional boundaries. Intimacy coordinators, for example, have become standard on many sets to ensure that actors feel safe and supported during sensitive scenes. There is also a growing emphasis on collaboration and mutual respect, rather than hierarchical or authoritarian approaches to creativity. Dunham's comments can be seen as part of this broader evolution, a recognition that the old ways of thinking are being challenged and redefined. Audience reactions. As with many discussions involving public figures, reactions to Dunham's comments have been mixed. Some have praised her honesty and willingness to reflect on her past beliefs. Others have questioned why these reflections are coming now, years after Girls ended. There are also those who defend Driver, pointing out that intense acting styles are not inherently problematic and that there is little concrete evidence of wrongdoing. Ultimately, the conversation is less about assigning blame and more about examining the cultural narratives that shape how behavior is interpreted. The legacy of Girls. Despite its controversies, Girls remains a significant cultural touchstone. It captured a particular moment in time, offering a raw and often polarizing portrayal of young adulthood. The show launched the careers of several actors, including Driver, and solidified Dunham's status as a voice of her generation. Now, as its creators and stars look back, new layers of understanding are emerging. Dunham's reflection adds to the ongoing re-evaluation of the show's legacy, not just in terms of its storytelling but also its behind-the-scenes dynamics. Moving forward, what comes next is less about revisiting the past and more about applying its lessons to the future. Dunham's comments serve as a reminder that progress requires both systemic change and individual accountability. By questioning the idea that great male geniuses are allowed to behave differently, she is challenging a narrative that has long gone unexamined. For the industry, this means continuing to create environments where creativity can thrive without compromising respect and safety. For individuals, it means being willing to reflect, learn, and grow. Final thoughts. Lena Dunham's candid reflection on her perceptions of Adam Driver's alleged on-set behavior is not a scandal, it's a conversation starter. It's about how we define genius, how we excuse behavior, and how those definitions are shaped by gender and culture. Her admission, I thought that's what great male geniuses do, is both a critique of the past and a call to rethink the future. In an industry built on storytelling, perhaps the most important stories are the ones we tell ourselves, and the ones we're willing to change.